Brace yourself. The antitrust suits are coming. The European Union just decided that the fine against Google that happened in 2017 for $2.4 billion was in fact correct. So this ruling has been upheld. They said that Google favors its own comparison shopping service over competing services. And part of me is like, duh. $2.4 billion is not an insignificant amount of money to Google. It's 1% of the gross revenue. And I know that because I Googled Google gross revenue. What's interesting, though, the thing that I really wanted to highlight was Luther Lowe, head of public policy at U.S. local-based recommendation website Yelp, urged follow-up actions against Google. Here's his quote. Rather than accept a Pyrrhic victory, and if you're not familiar with the Pyrrhic victory, it's a victory that comes at too great a cost, the European Commission must now take this favorable precedent and prosecute Google for its parallel abuse in local search market and allow services like Yelp to compete on merits. Here's the thing. If you're not familiar, there's a documentary out there called $1 Billion Bully. Yelp is an extortionist operation. Now, Google's the Leviathan. I don't disagree. They're the evil empire, and they're eating up the world. And there's probably there's more than enough precedent for this case and then all the other cases that are in queue. But I just think it's hysterical that Yelp, of all people, is like, yeah, they're not playing fair. And it's like, dude, you eat small businesses for breakfast and spit them out because some of the stuff that Yelp has done. And here's the thing, Yelp has a page. Let me show you. Check this out. Yelp has a page. You can go to yelp.com/extortion. Why on earth? Oh, they moved the URL. Brilliant. Why on earth would they have a page dedicated to extortion? In the words of Shakespeare, he who doth protest most. Yelp extorts small businesses and has been extorting small businesses since the advent of Yelp. And if you're a small business and you've ever advertised with Yelp, you know this because you've seen your negative reviews increase and positive reviews drop off as soon as you stop paying them money. And then they just run around, throwing dirt and shade at everybody who says that. And maybe they've cleaned up their act since the documentary came out. I don't know, but I think that's absolutely hysterical. So that's interesting. What's more interesting is this isn't the first or second or even third time the EU has fined Google. They fined them $4.3 billion over the Android OS, $1.5 billion over, I guess this is on GDN, I don't really know. And then there's 3 fresh antitrust cases coming in the U.S. So before I get on my little tirade, the EU released a press release that is the political equivalent saying, nah, 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 nah. When you read this thing, it's hysterical. Here's why I think this is relevant for advertisers, because Google is going to have to change its algorithm in order to veil competition. Either that or Google's going to have to actually, play fair in its own ecosystem, and I can't imagine an organization really doing that. It wouldn't make sense for them. And so I think we need to keep an eye on these types of things because it's going to impact, like the legislative bodies are coming and the European Union just realized, oh, there's an ATM machine that I have. I get to go poke at Google and then billions of dollars come out. And what's really weird too is, and I didn't see this coming, but the U.S. seems to take its signals from the European Union. It did that with GDPR. The EU seems to lead the charge in terms of regulation, and then the U.S. is like, oh, okay, I guess we can get away with that too. Which I will withhold my political commentary because I don't understand enough about either governments in this particular context to really speak to it. But I wouldn't have necessarily seen that. My expectation if somebody told me this from the outside looking in would have been that the U.S. is probably a little repelled by what it is that the European Union is doing and vice versa. So the fact that they tend to walk lockstep is a surprise, but maybe it shouldn't have been because, all you really have is municipal organizations municipal is the wrong word, sorry. Political organizations that are signaling to each other where money is available to them and, where the chinks in the armor exist. And so the antitrust suits are coming. And then like the article, which I'll link to in the description of the video, like the article said, the antitrust suits are now coming for everybody. So, Google, Facebook, Amazon. And I think that that's going to be an interesting ecosystem because, number one, historically in antitrust cases, and we saw this with oil, still, AT&T, but when the government tries to break up monopolies, they strengthen the monopolies. And I think that ends up being an obvious outcome because you can't take things away from folks. And so what ends up happening is the remediation process and breaking up the monopolies is spreading the way that the technology works out into multiple ecosystems with government assistance. So the government intervention basically says, look, this is a monopolistic approach. We need to spread out the utilization of these resources, and so they help with the spread, which increases the speed and efficacy at which that technology can spread, with the hope that it creates more competition. But because the efficiency of these resources drives towards this hierarchical structure where one entity owns 99% of the market share, all that's going to happen is they're going to, assuming it's more than just fines and slap on the wrists and finger wagging, they could potentially end up strengthening each of these various entities in different ways. So all that to say that I think we should keep an eye on what's happening in terms of legislation, because it is going to impact us directly and immediately. And I also think that there could be a really unique opportunity here for small businesses specifically, but everybody spending anything inside of any of these ad ecosystems, because you could be the direct recipient of, you're on the counter side of the narrative, right? You're maybe who the EU is trying to protect. So I imagine it would open up pockets of traffic that become less expensive than they should be, just so that we are giving these companies like Google and Facebook and Amazon the opportunity to virtue signal. And if you're paying attention to where that traffic exists, then you get to capitalize on it. That's it. I'm done. With the soapbox here. Hopefully all this makes sense. I do think it's funny when you watch geriatric, legislators trying to police things that they don't understand. I'm not saying that it's wrong. I don't think that, I do think that there's very clearly a monopoly, honestly, on every axis of analysis and basically every, technological forum. But we don't know how to contend with that yet, outside of just charging the money. So that'll be really interesting to see how we as a society and a world decide to deal with these companies that have gotten more powerful than most governments, and maybe all governments. The fact that a social media platform could have influenced the election in the strongest country on the planet. I'm not saying it did, because that's incendiary and a bunch of people get real pissed off when you say that. And I don't know that it did, but it could have. It's very likely. If you look at the data, it's very likely. It's not an unlikely story. It's not science fiction. And that's nuts. And that's also not the strongest application in existence. And so, if Facebook can do that, or can allow that to happen, then it makes you wonder, what could something like Google do that's so many times the size and has so many more data points and so many more tendrils and permeation. So I think this stuff is important. I used to, as a kid, I was a rabid libertarian, and I like that. I like that paradigm pre-technology, because it made a lot of sense. Small government, no regulation, Galt's Gulch. But these entities they're so powerful. They're so big. And, maybe there does need to be something or someone that protects us from them. Because if there's not, they could really, really do some very significant damage. And I'm surprised to hear myself say that. And I don't even know what that means. It's not that I'm flipping the coin. I still believe in small government. I still believe in no regulation. But, I guess up until the point, and we found it. We found the line. And now that you're depressed, found a way to make that a really, really dark video. You're welcome. Thanks for watching. I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please give us a thumbs up. That lets YouTube know we actually know what we're doing. We shoot a video every single day, so if you want to be notified, hit that subscribe button. And if you have any input, don't hesitate to hit us up in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. We get very little human interaction. Thanks for supporting our channel, and hopefully I'll see you tomorrow.